السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Inshallah, my topic today, being in the last 10 nights, will be about Ramadan as a catalyst for change. And as we know, our characters inside of Ramadan should not be that different once we finish Ramadan. The actions that we do, right? They are, of course, more numerous that we try to do during Ramadan so that we can get the most of the incentives that Allah has put into it. But our character and how we act towards people and our reaction towards how people uh, talk to us or approach us should also be as if we were in Ramadan. Um, and so we have to realize that this is a situation that most of us that we find ourselves in, that we start Ramadan full of good intention, full of plans, full of goals that each and every was of us want to achieve. And so the month of Ramadan, it began, and we were all very, very strong. We were keeping up and we were getting there. And as the moon grows fuller, the middle of the month, we start to feel that this energy that we had in the beginning of Ramadan, which is natural, it starts to slow down. And so the last 10 nights is again where we feel this rush of energy again because we want to attain the blessings of Laylatul Qadr. And so we are determined that every single night we are going to take a portion of the night and stay up, whether we have to sleep a little bit during the middle of the day so that we get the blessings, so that we can stay up during the night, whether we come home after Taraweeh and take a power nap, whatever the case is, each and every one of us have a different plan so that we can stay up. Uh, for the last 10 nights. But what happens after this marathon? What happens after these last 10 nights? And so, if you're like most of the people, you find yourself that after Ramadan, you come to a complete standstill. And there's a term for it that the Ramadan effect is over. But what I want to talk about today is what if we did things differently? What if you made a decision, a conscious decision, that you would not just crash and burn after Ramadan, that you pace yourselves, that you see the month of Ramadan not just as this one month where you only find this high level of taqwa or high level of iman only Ramadan, and after Ramadan is gone, that it is completely gone. That we look at month of Ramadan as a training ground for the rest of the year and the rest of our lives. Each Ramadan we try to get better and do better, and every day as a Muslim we try to be better and better. So we use this month for growth, for transformation in the long term. And so this is what I'm suggesting once again, as every week that I say this phrase, is that what I'm gonna tell you is not something world breaking, ground shaking, whatever the case is. It's not something that is a mind boggler. It's something that's very common sense like, but it's just a reminder for us as Muslims. And so we all do hope for this positive change during Ramadan, but what I'm trying to do this year is to take a less short term approach to your ibadah in Ramadan. So, in these last nights of Ramadan, what are you looking to do? If you really think about it and if you visualize it, what will I do during Ramadan and how can I continue after Eid has passed? Can I build the relationships based on services that will continue after Ramadan? Can I invest in some sadaqah jariyah? Can I create a realistic plan that will enable me to remain connected to the Quran throughout the year? Because as we know, the Quran should not just be a book that we pick up just during Ramadan, just to get the blessings of every letter reciting, but it's something to focus on, something to reflect on, and we live our lives by the Quran. And so, in essence, what seeds can I plant this Ramadan in these last 10 nights that will flourish through the rest of the year? And so, with anything, the first step is introspection. The first step is to look within ourselves. Look deeply into your character with love and honesty and decide how you would like to be transformed. Every single person knows their weaknesses, their strengths, where you need to make a change, and where you need to push harder. And so, most of the time, most people generally, they don't do this introspection. Nobody takes the, well, not nobody, but a vast majority of people do not take the time to just sit down and think about, this is who I am as a person. This is what I'm good at. This is what I'm bad at. This is what I know I need to work on. And this is the type of changes I want to see myself have so that I can be a better person. And so, as the saying goes, no one is perfect, but practice makes perfect, right? So you try to be the best as a person that you can, and you know what is good and what is bad, as I gave in my last talk last week, that every single person has an innate sense of betterment and an innate sense of justice and an innate sense of what is right and wrong. So now is the time to look within ourselves fearlessly and dare to consider change. And as we all know, change is not easily done. Change is something that takes time. It takes a longer time to break a habit than to start a new one. And so some of our worst habits are established over a long period of time. And so, in that amount of time, these habits could now have become a part of personality, a part of our character, a part of who we are as a person and as our trademark. And so, these are often the hardest to shift because first you need to acknowledge that this particular character trait that you have isn't one that we as a person should be proud of. Maybe, for example, which is very relative to myself and also relative to most Muslims, it's just somehow natural, I guess, is that we're always late, right? Maybe you always show up to an event late. And this is something that the vast majority of people do have the problem of. So maybe you always have some juicy story to tell. Maybe you always have some drama to talk about. Maybe you're always tuned into the latest celebrity scandal. Maybe you have that sarcastic response to everything that you're told to. Maybe you love food, maybe you love sleep, maybe you love social media a little too much. It doesn't matter, whatever the case is, there's always these habits that each and every one of us have that we can work on. And so the question we need to ask ourselves is this a habit you want to go before Allah Azza wa Jal with? Is this something you are proud to present to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And so if it's not, it's time to work on it, right? So, who is the transformed you? What does that person look like to you? Does that person look like, it obviously in every person there is a picture of who you can expect to be, what you can assume to be. And again, no one is perfect and no one here is going to be flawless of sin because that's what we're here to do. Each and every one of us is here to sin and to ask Allah Azza wa Jal for forgiveness and to be grateful for whatever He has given us. And so the first thing is that we need to have a vision. We need to be visionaries. As a Muslim, we need to first visualize it, we need to see it before we need to see it to believe it. And so you have to create this image of a better you in your mind's eye so that you know what you're working towards. Make it real. Find out what makes it tick. For example, if you were to ask the transformed or the better version of yourself how you manage to memorize the Quran and keep up with studying, so what would they probably tell you? That they spend less time on social media and they often say no more often to social engagements. Now, this may not be what you want to hear, but if you are serious about this transformation, about being a better you, you need to bear in mind what your transformed or what your better person is saying. And there was this little quote that someone actually just told me yesterday, is that if someone were to follow you for 24 hours for the week or for the day, if someone were to follow you 24 hours a day for the week, would they be able to know if you're serious about your goals? If you have a goals, right? Say for example you want to memorize the Quran, and if someone were to follow you around for 24 hours of the day for the next week, would they be able to tell that you're serious about your goal? Would they be able to tell that, oh, this person actually has the intention of memorizing the Quran? Or whatever the case is, if you have a goal, would a person be able to tell? So you have to visualize and bring the transformed you to life in your head, so that you have something solid to work towards. You make dua to Allah bearing in mind what you have visualized, and as we know, Allah is capable of everything. So ask Him to grant you this vision if it is good for you in this life and in the next, and then trust in Him. So the first thing is introspection, right? You figure out what you're good at, what you're bad at, and what you need to work on. The second thing is to have a vision, to visualize what it is that you can see a better version of yourself. And then number 3 and 4 go hand in hand together. It is organization and determination. And because of internet and because of access to so many resources available to us, we have a productive and transformational planner. Do a search, get yourself organized, make a list of all that you want to achieve, your goals, and make notes of how you want to achieve these goals. And then you break it down. You break it down by first the year. Okay, say for example, you have a long-term goal in, say 4 years, you want to become an analyst, or you want to become a financial planner, or you want to become a therapist, or you want to become a doctor, right? Everything, it's a long-term plan, 5-year plan, and then you break it down year by year, month by month, week by week, day by day. How do you get to your goal? And so, if you're again bringing it to the easiest topic that there is, bringing it back to reading the Quran, right? Because this is the easiest example that you can give. There's so many more other examples, but something that each and every one of us that can relate to and actually have to relate to is about reading the Quran. As a Muslim, it's not what do you call it? It's not obviously mandatory. It's not like a fard, but it's not like, oh, every single day you must read the Quran, but as a Muslim, you want that to be a habit. You want to be able to pick up the Quran every day and read it. And so this is the best example for each and every one of us. If you want to read out the entire Quran, how do you go about it? If you say, oh, there's 30 days in a month, you want to do a juz every day, right? So you break it down from a month, you break it down to day by day. Now, 30 days, there's 30 juz. How many pages is one juz? Is 20 pages. Now you break it down that by the day. You want to do one juz a day, right? And I'm sure each and every one of you have heard the same example. If you want to do one juz a day, now, how do you break that down? There's 20 pages. We have 5 salah. All you do is do 4 pages after every salah, right? And so, by doing that, you do one juz every day. And how long does it take to do one page? Each and every one is different. But if you get into the habit of reading Quran, and reading Quran is a natural thing for you, to read a page should take roughly a minute or a minute and a half if you read very slow, you know? So that means it should only take you around 4 to 5 minutes to read 4 pages after every salah. So you're taking a 5 minutes out. And if you do this consistently after every salah, every month you're going to finish the Quran once. And the more you read the Quran, the more it sticks into your brain, the more it's easier for you to revise. And that's the goal, right? Um, but all of this, as you know, is something, once again, as a reminder. So my intention is not to repeat what is already out there, but to ask you to consider Ramadan as a catalyst for a lifelong change. Just as you should not follow a healthy diet or workout program just to lose a certain number of inches or a certain amount of weight, you should plan to adopt a healthy and active spiritual renewal program for life. So stick to your training in Ramadan. Do not give up. Don't cheat. Don't put it off. Keep pushing, keep striving, keep training yourself for the challenge that is yet to come. And as we know, we're all trying to increase ourselves in our Iman. And that's the number one goal. Always trying to do better and always trying to imagine that Allah is there watching us. And if you are not able to imagine that, know that Allah is always watching you. And so when you do that, you become a very genuine person. Doesn't matter who's around you and who's not around you. Just know that your creator is always there watching you. So when you have this thought in mind, everything you do becomes sincere. Everything you do becomes so harmonious. Everything you do becomes so honest and so willing. And in that sense, Allah Azza wa Jal helps you in everything that you want to achieve. Because once you know Allah is watching you, you don't have the time or you don't have the mindset to think, I want to do something bad. If you know that the one who is creating you is going to be questioning you on the day of judgment, and like I said, each and every one of us is born with this sense of right and wrong. And so once you know and once you always have in your mind that Allah is watching you, you pray on time, you give your zakat, you speak nicely not only to your family but to everybody outside of the house. You do everything knowing that you want to be a better person in the sight of Allah, so that whenever Allah takes us back to Him, that we're in a state of high iman. And may Allah Azza wa Jal make that be the case for each and every one of us. May our last words here be La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Ameen. Because this is what we all are working towards. We're all working towards in this test of life, that we all want to have a high level of iman when we pass away, and that Allah grants us into Jannah because of His mercy, and that because He sees us trying. And so may Allah grant us access and grant us Jannah, the highest level of Jannah, without any kind of judgment. And may Allah Azza wa Jal make it easy for each and every one of us to do ibadat and to be closer to Him. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.